Hello everybody. In the current affairs this week, the week ended 3rd of August 2025. The biggest news this week was that US is imposing tariffs on India big way. 25% tariff starting from 1st of August and a further threat of penalties for buying Russian oil and Russian defense goods. Moreover, President Trump called Indian economic policies as obnoxious. Further, he said that US is going to support Pakistan in oil exploration and the day is not far that Pakistan will be exporting crude oil to India. He imposed a tariff of 19%, which is lower than what it imposed on India. Then, if that was not enough, he said that Indian economy is a dead economy. These are all the utterances and actions of a global leader who has inherited powers of the US dollar, the US military, the US economy, and the US financial system. This strength of the US has been built over several years and decades. But I think Mr. Trump does not know, or he might not be understanding the fact that it takes years to build trust for the systems of the nation, the economy, but actions and utterances can erode this trust quite fast. As far as India was concerned, India had its own limitations in not accepting certain terms of trade which were insisted upon by the US. Some of the important things which India cannot accept, what was expected by President Trump was the first and foremost being that agricultural goods, dairy products, and genetically modified products are something India would not allow the imports of it at a very low duty rate or a zero duty rate, which will flood the Indian markets, because it will lead to the impact on those sections of the Indian society which needs to be definitely protected. Secondly, US is averse on India buying Russian defense equipments and supplies. But Russia has been a supplier of defense equipments since several years, and the entire Indian military system is quite ingrained with the supplies from Russia. Moreover, it has been seen that US has not been a reliable partner when it comes to any military assistance, because it has always encouraged and supplied and taken side of Pakistan in case of any or rather every military conflict. Moreover, India definitely looks at its own strategic economic interest and is buying Russian oil. So all these were the major irritants for the Trump administration and for India not accepting what President Trump wanted. But these tariffs had a definite impact on the Indian stock market. Nifty 50 was down by more than 1%, Nifty mid cap was down by around 2%, Nifty small cap was down around 3%, and FIIs were sellers to the extent of more than 20,500 crores, but the DIIs were balancing out in the market and they bought Indian equities to the extent of 24,300 crores. The sectors which got most impacted was Nifty Realty, which was down by around 5.5%, and Nifty Defense, which was down by around 5%. On the international commodities front, Brent crude was up by around 2%. Gold in India was unchanged, but silver saw a sharp correction of more than 4% this week after a long rally in last few weeks. Nasdaq and S&P 500 both were down by around 2% each, and MSCI China was down by around 3.5%. Lastly, whatever are the actions and the announcements which are made by President Trump, we definitely feel that can anybody gain anything out of this kind of a behavior? But the fact is, yes, there are countries and group of countries who really get impacted by such kind of a behavior by a superpower. And the case in point is the US-Europe trade deal. Under the US-Europe trade deal, all the goods which are exported by Europe will invite a tariff of 15% when they are sold in the US. But the goods exported by US to Europe would be at 0% duty free. So this is the kind of concession which he has been able to extract from these kinds of trade deals and these kinds of behaviors. That is all for this week. Thank you.